Greetings from Gangtok here in Sikkim during the lockdown, wondering what to do with my time. So I've decided to share with you a few stories which I'm putting down in a book which should come out later, hopefully. And these are really stories, anecdotes of my experiences as a teacher in many different schools in the 33 years that I've been teaching so far. The first story I'd like to tell you is a story that takes place way back in 1987, where I began my teaching career in Tashi Namgyal Academy. I remember it was a science lesson, and I was teaching the topic that air exerts pressure. And I was doing the classical experiment. Some of you may remember it. It involves a tumbler filled to the brim with water. And then you put a piece of cardboard over the top of the tumbler and invert it. So I entered the class and I set up the experiment, and I filled the tumbler to the brim with water. Then I placed a piece of cardboard over it. And before I inverted it, I told the class, now you all got to pray to make this experiment succeed. And I paused and I definitely said a prayer, a very fervent prayer, because at that moment I could see the figure of Mr. Phantom looming large in the doorway. And then nervously I turned the glass over, and there was an audible gasp as the cardboard stayed in place and the experiment worked and no water spilled from the glass. So I put the glass down and then looked over to the students. And then in every class you have these smart alecks. There were a couple of kids in the back sniggering. So I called them over and I said, you come over now and you do the experiment. So they came over, two of them, and I asked them to fill the glass with water. We went over the steps. They filled it to the brim. Then I said, put the cardboard over it. And I said, okay, now flip it over, turn it over. So they turned it over, and sure enough, the cardboard fell to the ground and all the water fell. And there was pandemonium, there was chaos, and then it took a few seconds for us to settle down. And then I turned to the class and I said, okay, what did we do wrong the second time? And I was hoping for a scientific kind of an explanation as to what might have gone wrong with this experiment. And then as I looked over to the class, I saw this cute little girl out in the corner with a hand up. And I said to her, I said, Hishe, yeah, tell me, Hishe, what do you think went wrong with our experiment? And she said, sir, you forgot to pray. I was just thinking about the stories which I have written for my book. And it is my belief that the stories would only have deeper meaning if we spend a little time pondering what the content of the story really means and reflect a little on each story. And I've done this exercise myself, and I'd like to share with you my reflections on the first story where we talked about the value of prayer. And I'm reminded of the words of Alfred Lord Tennyson, who said that more things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of. And I know in my own personal life, I'm a living testimony of this. Way back in about 1980, I wrote a small story for my college magazine, and it was entitled Heaven Watches Over Fools Like Me. And I know that every day since then, and the days prior to that also, heaven really has been watching over fools like me. And my life really has been a blessing, an answer to so many prayers which I have sent up, which have been answered.